The married CEO is being charmed by the pregnant girl he has just met. Looking at her sweet, sleepy face, Gabriel's worries dissipate a little. However, it's not a one-sided attraction. Next morning, Juana ogles the sleeping man amorously, completely smitten. Sleep-feigning Gabriel can't hold back and asks her to stay. He grabs her luggage, saying that if she wants to avoid her family, she can continue to live in his company. Juana can hardly resist his tenderness. Unbeknownst to them, the baby in Juana's womb is their own flesh and blood. Juana returns to the university with glee, only to be caught by her mother, Jenny. Jenny apologizes to her pregnant daughter for blaming her. As Juana's frustration fades away, she reveals her suspicions about her pregnancy as a virgin. She suspects that the doctor did something to cause her to have a baby. Because the date of her pregnancy coincided with the date of her medical checkup, Jenny immediately takes her to the hospital to settle the score. On seeing them, the nurse who made the mistake feels guilty and takes to her heels at once. Unfortunately, the downstairs exit is unlocked. Under the pressure of mother and daughter, the nurse has to confess that she has committed medical malpractice. She mixed up the surrogate mother's file with Juana's. As a result, the sperm that was supposed to be injected into the surrogate mother was injected into Juana's uterus. Juana and Jenny feel like the sky is falling. Absurdly, not only does the nurse show no remorse, she even induces Juana to give birth to the baby, because the sperm donor is incapable of bearing children. That's why he paid a lot of money to rent a womb. The baby in Juana's womb will be the only child he will ever have. That man would do anything for the baby inside her. Jenny is fuming with anger. She's a virgin who's never even been in love. How could she give birth to a stranger for money? Juana struggles to calm down and asks for the sperm donor's information. But the nurse refuses to answer because it's hospital confidentiality, and simply reveals that it's a rich and powerful man. Mother is furious and tries to call the police, but Juana stops her. She doesn't want to make a big deal out of it. Juana locks herself in her room, crying. Her studies, her dreams might have been ruined by her unwanted pregnancy. While she is grieving, her friend Daniela calls and asks her to send the photos she took for the beer company at their anniversary party. Juana gets herself together and comes to Gabriel's office to deliver the photos. The attentive Gabriel notices her red, swollen eyes and asks her what's wrong. Juana doesn't know how to explain everything. Gabriel had wanted to meet Juana on purpose to get the photos. After realizing that she is in a bad mood, he drags her to the entrance of the company. He ditches his limousine and bodyguards, puts his long legs on Juana's scooter. The two of them, like wild horses breaking free from the reins, ride it away. Unbeknownst to them, this ambiguous scene has been witnessed by the employees. Since Gabriel is taking Juana for a ride on a hill, he doesn't get a call from his wife. This makes Paula feel uneasy, especially after noticing that he hasn't been home all night. Paula feels that her marriage is really on the rocks. Worried that her husband is really going to break up with her, Paula wants to rush to the office to confront him. Camila stops her and reminds her that she has a charity event to attend later. And talking to her husband in her current agitated state would only add fuel to the tense relationship. Paula has to calm down and follow her mother to the orphanage to attend the charity party. As she stares at the rows of orphans on the stage, a bold idea pops into her head. If Gabriel insists on separating from her because they don't have a child, why doesn't she adopt a child? In this way, she can bind her husband, can't she? Paula goes to the father and tells him about Gabriel's cancer and his inability to have children. She lies about wanting to be a mother and begs him to let her adopt a child. The father says the paperwork for adoption is very complicated. She needs Gabriel's permission to move forward. Paula would do anything to save her marriage. So even though Gabriel ignores her, she swallows her pride and goes to his company to find him. But the employee tells her that Gabriel spent the night with a girl. They just rode out of the office together. Paula is livid. She believes Gabriel's obsessed with separating from her because he's cheating on her. In sharp contrast to Paula, who is in despair, Gabriel is on cloud 9. He takes Juana to a cafe at the top of the hill. Gabriel is careful to ask her if she's worried about her pregnancy. Juana doesn't tell the truth about her wrongful insemination. She just says that her baby's father doesn't know it exists and she isn't going to tell him. This is unacceptable to Gabriel, who has always wanted to be a father. He persuades her that the father of her child has a right to know about it. Juana is unable to voice her troubles and doesn't want to argue with him. To change the subject, she plays a game with Gabriel. After shaking the Coke vigorously, just tap the top of the can gently. Then when you open it, the cola won't spurt out. This little bit of fun instantly dispels all the sorrows. The two of them open up to each other and become good friends. When he arrives home, Paula angrily questions him about his relationship with Juana. Gabriel explains that they're just friends. However, Paula doesn't believe there is pure friendship between a man and a woman at all. She confesses her love for Gabriel and asks him to sleep with her in her room. Gabriel refuses because he is not in the mood. The fact that he is unable to be a father is weighing on him like a pall. On the other side, the gynecology office is also in chaos. The nurse goes to the doctor who gave Juana the insemination and says that Juana knew about the medical malpractice. If Juana files a lawsuit against them, they'll probably go to jail. The doctor wants to tell the supervisor and ask for help. The nurse is afraid of taking legal responsibility and flees from the hospital, leaving the doctor to tell the supervisor everything. In fact, the supervisor was the one in charge of the artificial insemination procedure. But he was too busy that day, so he left it to the doctor. What a huge mess has been made. Even worse, they didn't know who Gabriel's sample had been injected into because the nurse had deleted Juana's file and ran away. After much deliberation, Dean thinks the only way to turn things around is to tell Gabriel about it. He's sure Gabriel will pull all the strings to find the pregnant girl for the sake of the baby, and will forgive them for the sake of the baby. That night, the supervisor comes to Gabriel's house and tells him. Gabriel almost breaks out crying with excitement. For the infertile Gabriel, this is probably his only chance to become a father in his life. He says he's willing to fulfill the girl's wishes, as long as she'll give birth to his child. But the supervisor says the girl was forced to conceive, and she could terminate the pregnancy at any time. So they have to find the girl as soon as possible. Gabriel immediately hires a good private investigator to start looking for signs of the girl who is carrying his child. Unexpectedly, the next morning, several police officers arrive at his house claiming that Gabriel is involved in a disappearance. A few weeks earlier, Gabriel had celebrated his company's anniversary at his house. Since then, his best friend Francisco, who was attending, has mysteriously disappeared. The police want Gabriel to cooperate with their investigation. Gabriel has to put his search for the pregnant girl on hold. The detective then begins to search his home. When they come to the back garden, Gabriel suddenly remembers that Juana claimed to have seen blood here. The police immediately phone Juana to come over and cooperate with the investigation. But Juana can't be sure that a murder really happened here. After all, she only heard the sound of a gunshot that night, but she didn't see the murderer or the body. Knowing that Juana was a photographer that night, the detective thinks that she is very likely to have captured some clues. He asks her to give the police her camera, her memory card, and her photos. Juana agrees, but she can't find the memory card. A few days ago, when her grandmother was cleaning her room, she found the memory card on the floor. Thinking it was something unimportant, she casually put it in an inconspicuous place. It seems that this is the key evidence. Unfortunately, neither of them can find it now. After the detective interviews Juana, Gabriel takes her on a tour of the house, enthusiastically sharing his imagination of a happy life here with his children. Their intimate conversation is captured on Camila's phone. As Francisco's wife, Camila has lived in Gabriel's house since her husband disappeared. She has no idea where he's gone. In the midst of her inquiries, Francisco's phone rings from a crack in the couch in Gabriel's study. Camila answers it hastily, but there's no sound from the other end and hangs up in a hurry. It is Gabriel's father-in-law, the murderer, who did this in order to frame him. Gabriel doesn't know why his friend's cell phone is in his study. Just as the detective suspects him and questions him further, Camila calls Paula, who's away at work, and tells her that Juana is at her house, talking intimately with her husband. Paula is insanely jealous, but instead of going home right away, she chooses to continue shooting for the most famous magazine. Camila goes to Juana and warns her to stay away from Gabriel. No self-respecting woman would go near a married man. Humiliated by her, Juana is so embarrassed that she's ready to leave. Gabriel stops her anxiously and asks what's happening. He explains that the conflict between himself and his wife has nothing to do with her. Afterwards, he shows concern for her health and the baby in her womb. When he hears that she doesn't want to tell her child's father about it, Gabriel stops pushing her, respects her choice and gives her a hug to comfort her. Gabriel always appears to have a magic touch that can readily lift Juana's spirits and ease her troubles. After she leaves, the detective says goodbye to Gabriel without finding any clear evidence, when suddenly Paula rushes in and yells at Gabriel for being shameless enough to take his mistress home. The detective explains that he's the one who called Juana over to inquire about the disappearance. Then they quickly leave. Gabriel, who has never felt so humiliated, scolds Paula a crazy woman. Camila urges her to calm down. If she wants to save her marriage, she has to do something that will make Gabriel come back to her willingly. Paula suddenly recalls the adoption program. Paula goes to the orphanage and lies to the father that her husband has agreed to adopt a child. She offers to bring a child home to meet him. If they get along well, they can go through the adoption process. since she doesn't really want a child, let alone care for one. She refuses to bring home a newborn baby, and chooses a 10-year-old boy instead. Gabriel sees that she has ulterior motives. He doesn't want to hurt the innocent boy, so he suppresses his anger. He agrees to let her take the boy home to play. However, Paula has no concern for the boy's safety or well-being. Gabriel warns her to stop using the boy. He deserves a better mother and father than to be here with her putting on a farce. Gabriel can't stand it any longer and leaves the house, rushing to the hospital with his anger. He questions the supervisor about whether the pregnant girl has been found, but he gets no answer. Inwardly depressed, Gabriel calls David, the marketing director, for a drink. He spills out all his frustrations, saying that his values are completely different from Paula's and that his love for her has gradually run out. She goes to her friend's house and confesses that she has a crush on Gabriel. Daniela urges her to come to her senses. After all, Gabriel is married, and her current situation is bad enough. The baby in her womb has yet to find a father. Juana sobs that she will try to restrain her feelings for him, but it's indeed he who has given Juana a lot of courage and understanding, which has led her to make up her mind to give birth to the child. But Juana's family is strongly opposed to her giving birth. Grandma earnestly persuades her not to be impulsive. She hasn't graduated from university yet and has never been in a relationship. There's no need for her to let the child tie her down or even ruin her bright future. However, Juana is firm in her attitude and says that she will be responsible for her own life, since Grandma could raise her mother and uncle all by herself, and her mother could also raise her alone. How could she, as an adult now, fail to do the same? Don't underestimate the bond among women. It's enough to support them through all difficulties and obstacles. Seeing that she is so determined, her family members stop opposing her and instead stand by her side. The whole family starts working hard to earn money for the baby's upbringing. Juana feels embarrassed to sponge off her family at home, so she asks Daniela to help her look for a job. David, who has a crush on Juana, finds out about this. He acknowledges Juana's talent for photography and art and warmly invites Juana to apply for a job at the beer company. But Juana is hesitant, because David and Daniela both work for Gabriel. She doesn't want to get too involved with Gabriel for fear of becoming obsessed with him, but then she sees her elderly grandmother making pastries day and night to sell them for money, and her unreliable mom is looking for a part-time job. She feels sorry for her and changes her mind. She goes to Gabriel's beer company for an interview. In the end, with her excellent ability, she gets an offer and becomes a graphic designer. Gabriel is surprised and delighted, and sends her his congratulations and encouragement. Camila, the head of public relations, immediately informs it to Paula. She deliberately exaggerates the situation and says that it was Gabriel who arranged for Juana to join the company, with the aim of making it more convenient for them to meet privately. Paula becomes jealous, fearing that Juana might actually steal her husband. So she goes to a private detective to find out Juana's information and address. Juana doesn't know anything about it, and is still in a state of euphoria about her new job. She throws herself into work actively, hoping to win everyone's recognition. However, the news that she spent a night with Gabriel in the company has already been widely spread among the employees. David can't help but ask her if she has a special relationship with Gabriel. Juana senses the hostility in his words, and her secret wish to see Gabriel every day has also been completely exposed by him. All the embarrassment, humiliation and shame flood over her. Juana can't keep her dignity any longer. She sadly packs up her things and gets ready to resign. This is Maroon Recap. If there's a movie you'd like to watch, feel free to leave a comment and let me know. Let's watch a movie together and experience something different. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel.